Hey everyone, I'm giving away a free Nightmare Narrations t-shirt on Halloween to 5 random commenters, and all you need to do to enter is like, and then comment on any video on this channel. Each comment will get you an additional entry into the drawing. In particular, I'd like to know your favorite aspects of the story, which character resonates the most with you and why, and whatever feedback, positive or negative, you'd like to give me. I do truly appreciate your feedback, and will take these to heart as I bring more narrations to you. And with that, let's start the story. I just found out why the kids in my town are brutally killing their parents. Part 3. Welcome to Child Trademark. The bus ride to juvenile detention was like being shipped to a slaughterhouse and being completely aware that I was going to be chopped into pieces. I suppose this was what cows felt like. But cows had the luxury of zero self-awareness. They just ate grass, stared at the sky, and were butchered. There is a difference between me and a cow. Cows are not given families to form a connection with, a mother and a father to love, siblings to grow bonds with, a life they think is theirs. No, cows are fucking cows. They're told they're produce. They know they are produce and end up as produce. Leaning my head against the window, I squeezed my eyes shut, refusing to look outside and taking in the early morning sunrise blooming over the horizon. If I did, I would be reminded that I didn't belong in the town which I thought birthed me, which I thought I was a miracle baby of, when I was in fact not even human. For 17 years, I had been fed a lie that was coming back to haunt me. The bus jolted, and my head hit the window with a meaty smack. I had half a mind to do it again. Maybe I could kill whatever I was before I could arrive at this so-called juvenile detention center, which I was guessing was a slaughterhouse for kids who survived their parents' stupid plan. Mom thought she could keep me forever by blowing me up. Call me weird, but that was just backward thinking. The mystery I had been struggling to solve over the last few months had come to a climax, with me becoming part of it. And yet, despite knowing why kids were brutally ripping their moms and dads apart, I still felt like something was missing, like I hadn't even delved into the meat of it. There were still so many questions I had. Seth Daniels and the sheriff's son, had they been taken care of for good? Is that what this place I was heading to did? Mom spoke of a biological mother who was looking for me. So where exactly was she? And why hadn't she found me yet? Lastly, it didn't make sense that Mom would go to the extreme of blowing me and my twin up to avoid giving us back to the people who created us. I was positive she did not plant that device herself. I think it was already part of me, and she had control of some kind of self-destruct. I could only guess that she and the moms of the town who bought these artificial children had made a pact not to give us back. But that didn't explain why she had another version of Freddy. Had she really loved Golden Boy so much, she decided to buy my twin again? What about me? I thought back to hours earlier before I was caught. Right after the death of my brother, I took Noah and ran before Mom came back and saw I wasn't reduced to dripping red pooling from her walls. Will it hurt? Of all the stupid things my sister has said, this definitely takes the cake. However, I didn't say that, instead concentrating on doing as little damage to Noah's eye as possible. It had to be a clean cut, and I was already struggling with one eye myself. Thankfully, mine had stopped bleeding after a while, and I was a proud owner of a deep, cavernous hole where my right eye used to be. I'd ripped off the sleeve of my sweater and bound it in an eye patch-like bandage. I looked like a pirate. Noah, I think she was still in shock after seeing Freddie's death. 17 years of him, whether they were fake or real, were gone in an instant, painting the kitchen, and neither of us were acknowledging it. I wanted to pretend our brother was still alive. I wanted to be in denial. There was time for grieving, but in that short amount of time we had together, hiding in an abandoned church, we were free to be fully and completely in denial of our brother's demise. Surprisingly, I had not decided to kill my parents yet. That would come, and after seeing what Mom had done to my twin, I knew I was going to make it slow, making her suffer. But first, I had to figure out just what exactly I was, and how to escape town without having the same fate as the other kids. The sheriff's son, Finn Novak, told me I would join him once I turned 18. I was determined to prove him wrong, and I thought I had, until I lost 4 hours, waking up on my back inside an abandoned church covered in blood, with no memories of what I had been doing. According to Noah, I had been dragging her around town looking for a place to hide out. But from the look in her eyes, and the fact she couldn't look at me properly, I knew there was something else. It's not like I could ignore my hands slick with blood. No, everything was covered in blood. Not just my hands, but the sleeves of my jacket and my face. I could feel it painting me, staining me like I was its canvas. Noah had done her best to wash away the blood with a bottle of water, but I could still feel it caked in my fingernails and dried into my scalp. I guess the sheriff's son was right. Noah was trembling despite the warm night air as the two of us sat cross-legged on rotten flooring. I pulled back the knife, trying to smile reassuringly, but there was no way I could sugarcoat carving out her fucking eye. Instead of focusing on her question, I found my gaze flicking to stained glass windows above and couldn't resist a scoffed laugh. What god would allow a town to do this? To create artificial children to replace the children it couldn't have? Why did we have to suffer for whatever mistakes they had made? Yes, it will hurt, I said, positioning the blade in front of her right eye. I'm taking your eye out, so obviously. I handed her the remnants of my sweater. Bite down on this. Sniffling, Noah swiped at her eyes. She was always bad hiding her tears. Is this what killed him? Her words stung, and I could only bring myself to nod. Noah bit into the material, wincing. She couldn't stay still, rocking backward and forward, blinking rapidly, despite me telling her to stop, her gaze pinpointed on the blade. With her facial expression contorting, I couldn't map out where I was going to start. With me, I had been desperate and just plunged the teeth in. With Noah, I had time to make sure I didn't blind her. I didn't even know how I didn't blind myself. Hold still, I muttered. I'm going to do it on the count of 3, okay? I steadied her shoulders. Stay still, unless you want to go blind. Blind? Yes. I held her gaze, trying to keep my own quaking hand steady. Do you want to be partially vision impaired? Or blown to pieces? I didn't mean to say that. It just came out. And with the way Noah looked at me, I realized the gravity of my words. The way her body stiffened, her expression twisting into agony. Noah was a lot younger in her mind than she was. It didn't take a lot to make her cry. When her eyes widened, her lips wobbling, I told her repeatedly that what happened to Freddie would not happen to her. I wouldn't let it. My sister nodded, clamping her teeth into the woolen hood of my sweater. "You killed 3 people earlier," she muffled into the material. She let out a squeak when she realized I could hear exactly what she was saying. What she said did not surprise me, but it did send shivers wriggling down my spine at the thought of knowing I was just like Seth Daniels and Finn Novak. I had almost driven myself crazy trying to figure out why they would do such a thing, why they would slaughter their own parents, and yet turning 18 had done the same thing to me. They killed their parents because they were told they were nothing but products. When Noah's body slumped against mine, I almost dropped the knife. It was like the 2 of us were kids again, her sneaking into my room and crawling into bed with me. Sometimes Freddie would join, sitting propped up on pillows, pretending to play on his DS while I was reading Noah horror stories and definitely listening. There were nights when Mom did her ritual in her bedroom. I can't explain the pain of knowing there was a possibility that wasn't real, that I really had been born at the age of 17 and never existed as a child, that I never had childhood memories of my brother and sister and was grown specifically to be sold to infertile parents. Noah pressed her head into my shoulder, still biting down on my sweater. "It's like you were possessed," she whispered in a hysterical sob. What I wanted to do was block my ears so I couldn't hear the inevitability that just like them, I was a murderer. I couldn't stop you. I screamed at you, but you killed them. Noah shook her head. You ripped them apart and I didn't know what to do, except run. There was blood everywhere, and I tried to call the cops, but I didn't know what to say, and you were in some kind of trance. My sister let out a wet-sounding sob. "Are they going to take you away too, Mara?" She lifted her head, her eyes wide and childlike like our brother. "Are they going to do the same to you?" No. I spoke too soon. "Girls." The knife dropped from my hands, hitting the ground with a loud clang. I twisted around to find no other than our mother, standing at the entrance. I stood stiffly and stepped back, dragging Noah with me. Mom was already stumbling over to us, her arms stretched out like she didn't just leave me a birthday card announcing my death and murdering my twin brother right in front of me. The closer she came, with cops following her hesitantly, I was seeing those last few seconds with my brother. I felt the phantom weight of his hands on my shoulders and his breath on my face. "We're okay," Freddie had said, instead of carving that fucking thing out of his eye, which our mother had detonated with a clear intention which said, "If I can't have them, nobody can." I watched my brother reduced to splattered scarlet on my face and hands, on the walls, and on Noah's face when I tried to cover her eyes. Mom suffocated me with a hug which drew all the air from my lungs. I could see people in white slowly moving over to us, carrying weapons. "Mar," she whispered into my ear in a breath. "You got away." "Oh God, you got away. I am so sorry, honey. I will explain to you, I promise. But the ones behind me that are gonna take you away, baby, they're bad people." Her voice became a hiss in my ear. "And Mommy is gonna save you from the bad people. Do you understand me?" Mom pulled back, holding me at arm's length. But her eyes weren't searching me. They briefly found my cowering sister before looking elsewhere. "Sweetie." Mom maintained her smile, but it was starting to slip. Mom was never good at faking smiles at the dinner table. And when she did smile, it was going upstairs for her nightly ritual. "Where is your twin?" Her frenzied eyes turned my gut. Where is Freddie? My mother's words were like knives perforating me one by one, sticking into my spine. I shoved her away, swallowing a shriek building in my throat. After everything she had put us through, somehow my mother favored my dead twin more than me. Golden boy. He was always her golden boy. Her sweet Freddie who could do no wrong. And even after giving him a death sentence and killing him, somehow my mother was still looking for him. Still looking for a ghost whom I was covered in, whom I could still feel bleeding into me, all of him covering me, no matter how many times Noah scrubbed at my face with bottled water. I didn't realize I was screaming until I was being dragged backward, my arms bound behind me. Instantly, I went for the knife. I dove to wrap my fingers around it, and if I wasn't being violently pulled back, I knew I would have done it with no hesitation. I would have plunged the blade of the knife into my mother's skull. And that is what terrified me. Not just the look of obliviousness on her face. It was the reality that I would have killed my mother, and done worse until I was satisfied, until my hands were slick with her blood, just like my twins. I finally understood Seth and Finn Novak. They wanted, no, needed, to kill, to stop hurting, to release pent-up frustration and anger and pain suffocating them. You killed him, Mom. The words were escaping my mouth before I could register them. He's all over me. He's on my hands, on my face. And you're asking me where he is? No, Mara. Mom spoke calmly. I mean the other one. The phantom legs of an insect crept their way down my spine. What? What she had said took a while to register, but by the time it had, I was being pulled away from my sister and mother and dragged out of the church. Other one, I saw a different version of Freddie, but I never saw its face. Could it be possible that the box I saw had another of my brother, and she just replaced him? Is that really what we were? Could we just be deactivated and replaced, like we were real dolls? Freddie had died in front of me. 17 years of him was gone in a matter of seconds, and my mother thought she could just get another Freddie. I laughed. I didn't mean to, but the absurdity of losing my brother and being painted with pieces of him, only for hours later my mother telling me she had got another Freddie was enough to send me over the edge. Mom's words reverberated in my skull as I was shoved onto the back seat of a bus with several other kids. The windows were filthy and shattered, and the seats stunk of mold and rot. But anything was better than being with her. That thought dragged me back to the present. I lifted my head. The sky was getting brighter. A new day dawning. Not one I would see, apparently.
Welcome to Child Trademark.
The mounted TV at the front of the bus was playing the exact same thing over and over again.
Here at Child Trademark, we pride ourselves on making both our customers and produce satisfied. Hello there. We are sorry to watch you go, but everything must have an end. Everyone must come to an eventually. You were artificially created to be the answer to infertility and have granted so many mothers and fathers their wishes. For centuries, we have not been able to birth biological children, which makes all of you miracles.
Unbelievably, the kids in front of me were eating the presentation up.
For that, we thank you. We say this from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you for warming the hearts of parents everywhere.
There was a colorful animation of hundreds of test tube babies morphing into fully fledged 17-year-olds in a matter of days.
Before your separation, please feel free to use our state-of-the-art facilities to make yourselves as comfortable as possible.
Photos popped up onto the screen, stock photo kids frozen in laughter. Typical. They weren't even using us. But I couldn't imagine any of us laughing in this kind of situation. The voice continued before an animated smiley face bloomed onto the screen.
At Child Trademark, we will make sure your deactivation and separation are as painless as possible. It is okay to be scared. It is okay to feel hopeless and worried. We are here for every one of our children.
The smiley face morphed into a heart, and I scoffed. The guy sitting in front of me turned to shoot me a glare, and I found myself laughing again.
We love you.
The voice was getting faker and faker as the presentation continued on. It was like an iPhone commercial. So much shit being rolled off of the tongue, and it meant nothing. Its only purpose was to market. In our case, it was telling us we were going to die, and expecting us to smile and nod and accept it.
You are our children, our only children. And for that, we thank you.
The presentation ended, but the voice continued spurting out random messages of kindness, like these people could justify doing this and getting away with it.
Please do not be scared. You should not feel fear being part of something beautiful, natural, extraordinary. Take a deep breath. Look at the sky. Revel in all your memories.
The voice almost sounded sympathetic, and I might have believed it if it didn't sound like a fucking cheap text-to-speech AI.
Your second-generation parents love you and always will. It's time for you all to move on. Moving on is hard, we know that. But here at Child Trademark, we are here to help you through your final days. It is okay to be scared. It is okay to question yourselves. That is why you are coming to stay with us for a while. So your final days can be peaceful.
The video had a hypnotizing allure to it, edited in a certain way to catch the eye and keep you engrossed. I figured it wouldn't be hard for a group of traumatized teenagers to fall under its spell. It almost took me too, until the pain of the trauma in my eye pulled me away from that fake melancholy. It was a good pain which was enough to distract me. The guy in front of me was staring at the screen, his head cocked to the side, tears glistening in his eyes. Give me a fucking break. I kicked his seat and told him to wake up. Final days. I had a little sister I had to get back to and a mother I had promised to kill. I had a twin brother I wanted to mourn. The others in front of me were sitting quietly, watching the screen which was repeating the same patronizing shit over and over again. It was dehumanizing the way the thing talked to us. Not even a human being. A robot. I watched a video clip of a group of kids walking through a dystopian glass building before the bus came to an abrupt halt. When I risked a look outside, I found myself staring at the exact same building. When I stepped off of the bus, we were led inside. The juvenile detention center resembled both a prison and a school in one, which was impressive. On one hand, there were guards stationed everywhere carrying weapons. But in front of me was essentially a school. Yes, the school had bars on the windows, but it wasn't as horrific as I had imagined. Like boarding school. What I was expecting were large metal cages where they forced us in like cattle to do who knows what to us. What I got was state-of-the-art technology built into each corridor where a TV screen was playing the same thing that had played on the bus. That same soothing, reassuring monotone voice telling us everything was going to be okay, using buzzwords like beautiful and magical. And it did its job. Every kid I walked past looked to be in a manic trance, wearing a wide smile that definitely did not say, "I'm going to die." This place was a company and, dare I think it, a store where we were the produce. The boy who sat in front of me on the bus had introduced himself as Penn. I had known him for maybe an hour, and I already knew he was going to annoy me. He kept telling me to keep up with the line, hissing at me to walk faster. I don't know what this guy's problem was. Maybe he was suicidal. Maybe he liked being herded like cattle. Ignoring Penn, attempting to pull me with him, I quickened my pace as the intercom fell into that same monotone drawl.
Please make your way to the finishing room, where you will begin your final days.
The robot said loudly as I forced myself to follow Penn and the others, scanning for exits. There were two, one at the end of the hallway which looked like a fire door, and another in the form of an elevator which led to who knows where.
Newcomers, please go to room 103 to be processed. Once again, please see this as a safe space where we will do our best to assist you before separation.
Above me, there were at least 3 floors, and what looked like viewing screens on both, like a human zoo. I could already glimpse people peering over glass panels, curious eyes peering down on our small line. The intercom was brutal, straight up telling me I had walked into my own death. But hey, at least they had a PS5 in the rec room, which it had repeated over 5 times. While I was expecting tunnel-like corridors and broken lights, there were large glass windows allowing in sunlight. In the late June heat, the aircon was perfect on my face, blowing my hair from my eyes and relieving me from the stuffy bus ride. It wasn't a prison, sure, but I wasn't letting my guard down. I took my chance and sidestepped next to Penn. Out of curiosity, do you even know why we're here? I asked conversationally. Or do you think this is some kind of vacation? He grimaced. Oh yeah, I ripped my mom's lungs out and barbecued my dad. Penn caught up to the others. While the rest of my line shuffled toward the end of the hallway, I stopped at an automatic door, which immediately sensed my movement. I twisted around to see if anyone was watching, before ducking in quickly. I wasn't expecting to walk into a rec room like the type back at school, comfortably decorated with beanbags and expensive-looking couches filled with cushions. This place actually looked like the type of place you would send dying teenagers, or dying, artificial teenagers. Unlike the building itself, this place was more homey and less clinical. A large TV was mounted on the wall. Like a boarding school, this place had a dress code. Girls and guys wearing light purple tees and shorts. The screen was taking up half of the wall, with a countdown on it, bearing the words 1 hour, 43 minutes, 17 seconds, until separation. To be continued.